Hello world! Welcome to Learning Java, one byte at a time. This is video 20 in a tutorial series geared at bringing the wonderful wide world of Java to those with little or no programming experience. In this video, I want to take just a couple of minutes to touch on a topic called layering architecture, discuss how it's used with enterprise-level applications, as well as how it's going to fit in with our CarBlueBook application that we're going to be designing over the next several videos. Now, layering architecture is simply a way of writing your code in a way that keeps it modular and easier to maintain, and by spinning off tasks that are dedicated to certain purposes separate from one another. It's also a way of keeping the code more secure, more scalable, and easier to interface with separate independent projects. And so it's not very complex. It really is just essentially three different components. And if I jump over here to my Notepad++ application, I have sort of an outline written that details how the layering architecture is commonly laid out. So you'll normally have what's called the presentation layer, and a business layer, and finally a database layer. And each one of these is going to be purpose specific to the application. Now you can imagine if you were in charge of writing something like Facebook, something so massive like that program, if you were to write everything about Facebook into one single file, you'd not only be overloading the processor with an enormous amount of workload, but you'd make that massive amount of code nearly unmaintainable and unreadable because of its vastness and size. And so by separating your tasks and your purposes into separate layers and separate class files, you make that program more readable, easier to maintain, you ease the workload on the processor, and you also make it more scalable and modular. And so with the presentation layer, the essence of this is that this is going to be the face of the program. This is going to include the user interface as well as the anything that's going to be about the design, the interaction with the user, drop-down menus, input fields, and things like that. The business layer is going to take care of the logic of the program. This is going to be the nuts and bolts of this. It's going to be like the engine behind what's going on and handle most of the processing. Whereas the database layer is going to be in charge of keeping all of the file retrieval and storage as well as all of the data organized. And this can look like a lot of different things. So with regards to our CarBlueBook application, the presentation layer is going to be what's going to be keeping track of the CarBlueBook app class, and this is going to contain all of our user interfaces in this class. It's going to contain all of the interaction with the user, but very little of the processing or data retrieval or storage. The business logic for our CarBlueBook application is going to involve something called the CarBuilder.class, which is going to call the car class, which we've already written. And you'll notice the car class is very similar to the car class we've written in previous videos. The only difference is that we've overloaded the methods and we've done some constructor chaining. But this car class that creates the car objects is actually going to be called from a CarBuilder.class. And the CarBuilder.class is going to be working side by side with the CarEvaluator class, which is going to be the one that's going to be in charge of actually coming up with the dollar value amount of the car objects. Finally, we're going to have a CarDB class, the car database class, and this class is going to essentially be unique to keeping the data storage and file retrieval of all of the different car objects with our car application class. An analogy that I like to use is the presentation layer is normally the artist behind the application. The business layer is the engineer behind the application, and the database is the librarian behind the application. And you really need all three to have something that's going to be very robust and polished, like most enterprise-level applications are going to be. And so hopefully this was fairly clear and concise. We'll go ahead and move forward and write the CarDB class in the next video, and then we'll sort of move forward after that. And we'll take it step by step, and I'll explain along the way about how each of these is fitting into this three-layer architecture. And I think that by the end of the project, you'll see why keeping it layered and separate and organized and task independent like this makes the project just more easy to maintain and more easy to scale as well as interface with other applications. So hopefully that was informative and entertaining, and I can't wait to see everyone back again in the next video when we start writing our CarDB class. Hope you all have a great night, and thank you so much.